Welcome to the Literary Titan podcast. In every episode, we dive into a book we've just read and share our thoughts, from best-selling authors to rising literary stars. We read it. Now let's talk about it.
G.J. Prager's Street Time is a gritty coming-of-age novel set against New York in 1969, when the moon landing, Vietnam, racial conflict, changing sexual attitudes, drugs, and the widening generation gap all seem to be arriving at once. At the center are Jake Metzger, a troubled Brooklyn teenager increasingly drawn to drugs and street life, and Carol Hamlin, a restless 17-year-old from the Catskills who's eager for experiences beyond her sheltered hometown. Prager lets their stories develop separately for much of the novel, which gives Brooklyn and the Catskills distinct personalities before the characters' paths finally intersect. Jake's difficult relationship with his immigrant Jewish parents, especially his father, also gives the story a strong generational dimension. His rebellion isn't happening in a vacuum. He's growing up in a household carrying memories of persecution and the Holocaust, while he's trying to make sense of a country undergoing its own upheaval. What gives Street Time much of its character is Prager's attention to everyday life. The novel spends time in grocery stores, pizza parlors, school hallways, subway cars, bars, neighborhood hangouts, bungalow colonies, diners, and cramped apartments. That accumulation of detail makes the story feel less like a polished recollection of the late 1960s and more like being dropped into somebody's neighborhood while it's still happening. The dialogue is similarly rough and immediate. Characters speak in the slang, ethnic language, prejudices, sexual attitudes, and profanity of their surroundings, sometimes with startling bluntness. The result is a social portrait as much as a plot-driven novel. Drugs are especially important to that portrait. Marijuana, pills, heroin, and LSD become part of the teenager's social currency. But the book steadily shows how the search for excitement exposes Jake and Carol to manipulation, violence, sexual exploitation, and people far more dangerous than the rebellious teenagers they initially imagined themselves to be. Carol's story provides some of the book's most painful material. Her desire for independence leads into pregnancy, abortion, sexual assault, an overdose, estrangement from her family, and eventually the transient counterculture forming in the Catskills. Jake's experiences run alongside hers in a different register, moving through racial conflict at school, street gangs, drug use, violence, sexual confusion, family trauma, and his growing obsession with proving that he can protect himself. Their eventual reunion feels fitting because each recognizes something unsettled in the other, even though neither is equipped to rescue the other. The ending stays especially true to Jake. He hasn't suddenly become a different person, but he's accumulated enough experience to understand that the street education he prized carries a potentially brutal price. His final sense of relief at going home feels modest, uncertain, and believable. I'd recommend Street Time to readers who enjoy character-driven historical fiction about ordinary people living through periods of social upheaval, especially readers interested in late 1960s New York, working-class Brooklyn, the fading Borscht Belt, immigrant family life, and the darker side of the era's youth culture. It should also appeal to readers who like coming-of-age stories in which adolescence is messy, impulsive, funny at times, and genuinely dangerous. Prager's great subject here is experience itself. The things teenagers think will make them older, freer, tougher, or wiser, and what happens when those experiences turn out to carry consequences they never anticipated. Street Time captures a particular place and generation through two young people who badly want control over their lives and keep discovering how complicated freedom becomes once they actually have it.
Thanks for joining us on the Literary Titan podcast. If today's review sparked your interest, be sure to pick up a copy of the book and experience it for yourself. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with a fellow book lover. Until next time, keep reading, not just to escape, but to grow.